Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Drone Out. I never thought I'd see the day where we have a big important company on. He is very sleep. Oh my god, my laptop's kicked off in the back. I muted it on this. Wait.
Fail.
Were those polka dot pants he's wearing?
And this is why we don't have important people from big companies coming on.
Yeah, I will say that's never happened before.
I'm surprised he's wearing pants, if I'm honest.
One day I'll print some boxes that say like "I love Andy RC" on the back of them.
Oh.
Speaking of who doesn't love Andy RC, Hobby King.
Segue.
Yeah. So
yeah. Look, we've got an Andy RC poster in the office actually, and every now and then people just throw darts at it.
Is that really true?
Yeah. Little effigies that we burn, and a little lock of hair on a voodoo doll that we poke holes in.
Oh man, that explains a lot. I tell you.
I supplied the hair.
I knew it, Jack. I knew my hair had gotten shorter.
Yeah. Right. So hang on. Let me do this again. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Drone Out. Tonight we are joined by Andrew/Frank.
Hello.
Hobby King's Most Wanted, Andy RC.
Good evening.
We are joined by Toby from Hobby King.
Hi guys.
And my lovable favourite, Curry Kitten.
Hello.
And if anyone's wondering where Tony is, he's quit, gone insane, and moved to America.
You started up Let's Tone Out, right?
Yeah. So if you'd like to subscribe there, the website is www.letstoneout.org.
I have to say, I really enjoyed last week's episode, which was just basically Tony getting banned, and then you spent an hour trying to unban him. I was getting all sorts of messages saying that Tony's quit the show and he's started his own thing.
I can only wish.
All I was thinking is this what happens when I don't turn up for a week?
Yeah, it's all your fault, Andy.
Yeah, so.
Any volunteers to read out people in the chat to say hello?
We've got Underflicked in the chat, RC Dude, Crash Test Dummy, Long Range FPV, Zero Ladders. Who else we got in there? Richard Warwick, Clive. We've got Dave Story, Bill M, Andrea Haku. We have loads of people in the chat. Win, Falling with Style. Hello everyone. Clive has donated £1 already.
Where's the noise?
No noise. Anyone?
Noises this week or we get banned.
Yeah.
Start loads of shows.
You will instantly get a P45 and a ticket to go to Let's Tone Out. Any noise is played.
Right, can I ask some things about Hobby King then, please?
Yeah, why are you banned? Because you opened a PayPal dispute.
No. Where did you guys meet? Did you all went to Hobby King Live? Is that how you guys met?
Yeah. We had Hobby King Live in the UK in Elmset a couple of weeks ago. And everyone, well, not everyone, but the chaps from Let's Drone Out were there and bumped into me, and it was really just sort of a chance meeting, wasn't it, guys? And they sort of, spoke about Let's Drone Out. I don't really follow podcasts too closely, and invited me on the show. So yeah.
Just to warn you, that's exactly the same way I bumped into them, and now I seem to be on every week.
Well, unless you guys change your on-air time, I don't know if I'm going to be doing something like that. It's 3 a.m. over here actually. So
so where are you based then, Toby?
At the moment, I'm in Perth, in West Australia.
Oh right, okay. Is that as because we've had Final Glide Oz on the show before, and it's usually about 7 o'clock. So is it? That's
Australia's a really big place.
It's
pretty big.
It must be a different time zone then.
That's over in Brisbane. So Brisbane is 2 hours ahead of us. So yeah, it'll be 5 o'clock for Chad, and that's not too bad. That's just an early morning, but 3 a.m. that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that.
Well,
So
good. Where are you guys all based? Are you guys all in the UK?
yeah, we're all about an hour away from each other. But what you have to remember is an hour away is from one side of England to the other, and to us that's very far. So,
Yeah.
so we don't meet.
We're all an hour away from each other, and then Andy RC is way up north. It's like the
Really?
secondary part of the UK.
Yeah, I'm an hour and a half. That's even.
We never see him.
Yeah, we should be better at that, really. But yeah, most people are based down south near London, Brighton, and I'm in the middle, but they call it north because it's further than the bottom or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
That's how it
Pretty
works.
much.
So
Yeah.
I
So
assume
Toby,
that-
when you're
sorry, go on.
Toby, when you're not being collared by random podcasts, you're now the CEO of Hobby King. So I'm wondering,
Very interesting, Frank.
Any
Great questioning, Frank.
Could someone reboot Frank again?
in initial? Okay.
Well, that's a tough question. I'll tell you that.
I think we all found it tough. Let's be honest.
You want him to answer in zeros and ones, or
All right, give up on me then.
Why is your internet so bad, Andy? What have you got, Virgin Media or something? He can't even.
no? He's now resigned to just
You could
give
type
up
that
on me.
He's just a picture that'll move every 20 seconds or so now. I think.
Maybe Frank was going to ask something along the lines of what exactly is involved in running Hobby King all over the world. What is your day-to-day life like?
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's a great question. I'm still kind of learning that, if that makes sense. I've only been in the role of CEO for maybe 3 weeks now. It's a new role to me. Previously, I suppose I was one of the company's vice presidents, and that meant that I headed up one of the divisions of the company. So I looked after the sales and marketing and customer service side, but I had nothing to do with warehouse logistics, IT operations. I could put pictures on the website, but I couldn't really affect any major changes in the website. So my new role is a little bit different in that I get to fiddle and meddle in the warehouse and the logistics side, the IT side, including any integrations with third-party vendors and that sort of thing. And how has the first 3 weeks been? It's been interesting. We're a company of about 200 people, so the new teams that I look after now are I used to look after about 60, and now I've taken on the other 140. So I've just been meeting with people, trying to work out the bugs and the issues. I mean, working in the sales and marketing and customer service side, I've always been at the front end of the business, in the sense that I deal with customers and that sort of jazz, and I see people complaining and I see issues popping up, but I've never had real power to sort of affect these things. All I can do is prepare a report, send it on to the other department, and sort of hope that they fix whatever's going wrong. But now I actually get to delve into it, so that's exciting. It gives me more ownership of the entire service level that we're offering, and the product range that we're offering. But yeah, I'm only 3 weeks into it, so there's still plenty to learn. I'm still trying to work out what to do, and trying to focus my efforts on things that are probably going to return the biggest changes the fastest, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess so. And maybe I should ask the follow-up question, because I think it pops up every time people talk about Hobby King. They mention the website, so we should ask you about the website and how it is, and how are you affecting change there?
I didn't do that. I'd just like to point that out.
Which bit?
Frank's getting drunk now. Frank's given up.
Yeah, look, really, really good question. one of the first things that I did when I got my new role is I sat down with the head of our IT department, and I mean he's known that the sales marketing side of the company hasn't loved the new website for at least 2 years now. So the first thing we did is we sat down with him and we tried to understand what are the challenges that they're facing, because we see their department working really hard on the website, and we've got about 20 to 25 developers working full-time internally, and then we also outsource to a couple of other companies who help us stay on top of various parts of the website. And I suppose the first thing that struck me was that it is huge. It's huge in the sense that it's so much bigger than small Shopify websites or WordPress websites. Like it's a genuine enterprise level website, which means that there's quite a lot of complexity. So it took us 2 days to go from woe to go on the things that the IT department's working on. There's about 245 known issues right now that they've isolated that they're working on. The big question from us was, well, why did we go live with a website that we knew had bugs? And the answer to that is that the IT team generally didn't know that it had bugs, and neither did 2 of the third-party vendors that we worked with. When apparently a lot of these bugs really only show themselves when you put the website under load, and you know, with us, we're running 7 nodes around the world because now we've changed from physical servers to cloud-based servers. So that was a big infrastructure change for us. Scaling each one of those nodes at different times is more complex than what it used to be. So yeah, there's a ton of intricacies behind it, but it's something that we're absolutely working on. And again, they're focusing on issues that they think are going to deliver results as quickly as possible. So for instance, something that's going live this week, actually I think it might have already gone live yesterday or the day before, was the filter system. You know, you used to have to select a filter and then the page would refresh, and then select another filter and the page would refresh. And that was causing a lot of consternation because every time the page refreshes was like a 5 or 10 second issue in areas where our nodes weren't loading the content as quickly as possible. So now they've implemented something that allows you to select multiple filters and then apply all. On top of that, they've built in a better, more powerful content distribution network, which loads all the images in that much faster. They've dropped a lot of the redundant SQL queries in the back, and they've minified the CSS and the jQuery on the front of the site. So yeah, it is getting faster. I think it's taken page load times from like 8 seconds down to 3 or 4 seconds, which is more palatable, but it's still not perfect. I think best practice is around 1 second. But yeah, it's definitely something they're working on.
Cool.
So looks like we've had a Tony turn up, but it's not dark where he is. What's happening, Tone? Can't hear. He's muted. Can someone unmute Tony?
Can't unmute him. He's got to unmute himself.
Tone, you need to unmute yourself, mate. He's not.
You're an idiot.
Is he gonna ban himself again?
No, that was me.
Someone said. I thought someone muted him, and don't you need to unmute him?
Microphone button, Tony.
Well, it looks happy anyway, and it looks warm and sunny.
That's good stuff. Hey, we had a couple of questions in, which are they're quite interesting because they're kind of connected to what we talked about with Toby when we met with him. Underfluke is saying, in terms of growth, we hear a lot about drones being a huge growth opportunity worth billions of pounds, dollars worldwide. Hobby King seeing any of this growth in real terms? And another one, and Underfluke again saying, what percentage of RC sales are quad related? Is this increasing or stagnant? Because we were talking about, you were talking about, has the quad bubble reached its peak and is actually coming down again?
Yeah, well, from our experience, we experienced, gosh, sorry, it's 3 a.m., so my brain is like,
That's
struggling.
Come on, try and make sense.
Yeah.
English is not his favourite, first language. He was Australian.
What's your first language?
I don't know what to do with my hands. Yeah, look, drones were huge for us between 2012 and 2015. We had never experienced growth like that before. And even in our formative days, we were experiencing annual growth of 20% annually, and when you compound that over 3 years, you double the size of the company every 3 years. So, the quad revolution, I suppose you could call it, particularly when racing drones had only just hit, that growth for us was extraordinary. We saw that peter off between 2015 to the beginning of 2017, and then our experience since then has been a steady decline. Now, that doesn't mean that groups aren't growing. It just means that it might not be growing as quickly. And our company operates across the 5 major categories. So that's planes, boats, cars, and airplanes, and what used to be helicopters. And we had users in each one of those categories testing out drones, and that obviously contributed to the growth. But then I think they might have gone back to their original sort of passion, like maybe planes and cars and whatever. So what we're left with is a drone community that didn't really exist there before. But I mean, we at one point we simply couldn't stock drones quickly enough. Now, in terms of the question about it being a $1 billion industry, I mean, like, there's a huge amount of hype associated with drones, and you sort of got to split them into 2 camps. So you've got the hype masters who are coming along with just the drone industry in general. They're talking not just about consumer drones, but they're talking about commercial applications and industry and that sort of thing. And that's obviously worth a huge amount of cash. And then on the consumer side, you've got companies like DJI who've really almost consolidated the market with their offerings. It was a much more competitive market maybe 3 years ago, but they've drowned out, say, 3D Robotics, who we all thought was probably going to be one of the strongest competitors. Unique, when Unique came to market with their obstacle avoidance drone, I mean, DJI had such a large market share and such huge margins in their products that they just halved the price of their premier drone and just destroyed the business case for Unique. But I don't think so. So that's just the consumer drone side. But then the other side is the drone racing side. So that's how we segment it in Hobby King. We keep the drone racing and freestyle guys sort of separate to the commercial and consumer drone guys, and we don't see much growth anymore in the drone racing side of the community. In fact, if anything, we've seen quite a lot of contraction in that market, and that's sort of been reflected in some of our competitors who we know have also experienced these issues, and some of our suppliers who've experienced a contraction in their markets too. I think if you were going to ask anyone for real numbers, because it's difficult, like we might be losing customers to someone else or gaining customers from someone else, but I think if you were going to ask for probably the best data, it'd probably be at Fat Shark with Greg French, because most drone racers will get into drones to the point where they want a really serious set of goggles, and to my experience, most people are buying Fat Shark goggles. So if you wanted really good data, you'd look at your Fat Shark sales. And talking to Greg, I think we're about 30 or 40% of his market, and we don't see huge growth in goggles. We're still selling a constant amount, but we're not selling 20% growth on growth.
Can I just ask, because that what you're saying is consistent with anyone that we've had on the show. My question is it the same when it comes to consumer drones such as DJI? Is that in decline as well as the race drone? Or is it, because I have a theory that people come to race drones, they see it's too difficult, they got to get their head around Betaflight and filters, and then they go, this DJI thing does all I want. And that's, so how do you see, I suppose, you don't really deal with DJI though kind of stuff, do you?
Toby,
no, we do.
Toby,
we do.
You don't have to answer that objection. That was a leading question.
What do you mean a leading question?
Permission to treat him as hostile. Sorry, carry on.
No, I'm fascinated by the industry, and yeah, as having an RC channel and speaking to other people, speaking to suppliers, speaking to everyone, the race drone thing is in a slight decline. But because I don't really have much to do with the camera drone, and I mean I've got one, but my channel's not about that. Is that also in decline as well compared to the start?
We do have a lot of consumer drone offerings. What we've found is that if it's not DJI at the moment, it's just not selling. Well, it is selling, but just in far smaller numbers. The stuff that is really entry level, almost toy grade, that is super, super, super cheap. That stuff's selling, and it looks like people are using that to dip their toe in the water.
Yeah.
And then the moment they're happy or confident, they'll get a Phantom, or the Mavic Air or the Mavic Pro. So we're still experiencing growth in that, like single-digit growth. But with those models, we're competing with like big chains. We're competing with Best Buy and just large, genuine
Apple and things like that.
FMCG electronic chains. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting, but I find it sad at the same time. And I think about this a lot because I see the interest in race drones and copters declining, and I think I think there was a huge explosion, and I think it was people having a go at this new thing, and then realizing that you have to be an expert in beta flight. There's no return home. And when you crash, you've got to, it can get expensive and replace things. And I think that's going to keep happening. There's always going to be a community of people that obviously like flying race drones, but there was this huge explosion, like you say, 2015 up to 17, and it's just gone like that. I think things like beta flight is too complicated. I think that needs to get more simple, and maybe even GPS, although it does seem to be coming to race drones. I think that now the GPS technology can get smaller. I think that'll help it. But yeah, it's sad to see it in decline because it's fun. I've got DJI stuff, but after 10 minutes of flying, you've got all your footage. You can't do loops and spins and things. So
yeah, it's actually really funny you mentioned that. I sold my DJI drone yesterday. I had this great little Mavic Air, and it's the second time I've done it. Like, I buy one, I think, oh, this is great, I'm going to get some great footage here. I took it on holiday with me a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't even take it out the box. And it was just basically because, like, how many times can you see an aerial shot? It just kind of gets a little bit samey after a while. So yeah. And the thing is, there's no challenge to fly them.
yeah.
So yeah, I find them kind of boring. They're almost, I don't even know if you can even consider them an RC product anymore. They're so good now that they're almost just like more of a photography tool than anything else.
I've got a friend who describes it as a giant eyeball that you push around the sky, as opposed to something you'd actually fly.
It's almost like a crane. It's almost like a crane, a camera crane, isn't
like
it?
a tripod or something. Totally, yeah. That's kind of how I see them, and it just to me it makes it uninteresting. I originally bought it to put it up just over the beach. I don't know if you guys know, but where I live, there's a huge, I'm not going to say problem, but there's a lot of sharks, right? And I put it up above the beach before I'll go for a surf or something, purely to see if there's anything in the water. And then if there is, obviously I land and go home and just thank God I didn't go in the water that day. But more often than not, there's nothing. But even that, I just got to the point where, like, it kind of saps the joy out of it.
Yeah, it does. There's only so much. Yeah, so and it makes me wonder about. But that's the thing, though, that they're just so easy to fly. Anyone can buy one. So I think that's why that's increasing. And maybe it needs to be that on the race drone side. I think we need GPS. Especially now as we're going long range with Crossfire R9M, and we need some more safety features on our race drones. And I think that maybe might claw people back. Hopefully, because I just don't want it to decline to a point where it's not even worth talking about anymore.
Well, is the other answer is it going to go a different way? So a question we've had in the chat from Crikey, who I was out flying with the other day, is do you think there's any chance we might see an explosion in small, inexpensive wings for racing in the same way that happened to quads? Because it used to be the fact that, you know, planes were all like 2-meter wingspans, and then you've come down to the tech's got better. So you've got tiny little flight controllers, things like iNav, in tiny little wings, which don't have the same issues with space, and you can chuck them in the car and they handle the wind better. Do you think that's going to be a thing?
Well, around, I don't know if you guys, well, I'm sure you guys remember the drone world championships that were in Hawaii. There was a lot of talk around wings and that around that time, and we jumped all in and we started developing a bunch of wings, and a few of them came to market, and we saw that the people buying them weren't necessarily drone racers or former drone racers. Yeah, well, exactly. The Tomahawk's one of them. Yeah, we saw that the people buying them were more airplane guys who wanted to sort of dip their finger in the water rather than drone racers who wanted to sort of try something else. And yeah, I think these things get pushed by the communities that are using them, and I still think like if you're comparing race wings against drones would have to be 10-to-1 at the moment, because I just don't feel like race wings have captured the imagination in the way that drones did when they first came along. I think they're struggling to hit that critical mass where people will go buy one because they know that there's going to be a race on at their local club with wings.
Yeah, although I kind of feel that although there's lots of talk about race drones and people buying them, there's a lot of people just sort of flying recreationally. You know, like there's a tree in the field, I can loop around it and do some fun things. Yes. Much the same way that you do with wings. You go out with a couple of mates and you just chase around and crash a lot, and that's sort of where the fun's to be had rather than getting into the nitty-gritty racing of it. Yeah,
personally, I actually have more fun with a wing that flies kind of slowly, that I can do like proximity stuff with and go through trees and that sort of jazz, rather than something like we've got this product called a Sidewinder, and it does like 100 miles an hour, but I find by the time I see anything, it's too late, you know. So yeah, I much prefer those smaller wings that, you know, made out of EPP, and I can sort of, you know, chance my hand at going closer to things or flying through things. I just find that more fun.
Oh, Underfluked has donated £10 on the super chat. Thank you, Underfluked. We've got a question here from Droning On. So this is Ash. He runs a review YouTube channel like me, and he's asked the question. He doesn't seem to get approached. Oh, here we go. It says, I'm approached by other retailers all the time to work on reviewing items, except for Hobby King. It says, does Hobby King want to work with creators more, is the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've kind of dropped the ball a little bit in that regard. Maybe 2012, we were very lucky that we didn't have a great deal of competition in the market, and most people would sort of contact us and ask us whether or not we wanted them to review a product. That dynamic's changed now. With so much competition in our industry, we find that good reviewers and YouTube channels are bombarded with options now, with really aggressive companies chasing them down, almost shoving their products in their hands. Hobby King's never really been good at that push, like trying to push it into people's hands. They've kind of more relied on the pull from customers or from reviewers asking to review it. But yeah, look, if you run a successful YouTube channel out there and you want to review some of our product, just email us, marketing@hobbyking.com, and you'll definitely get a reply from someone.
There you go, Ash. That's what you got to do. Get emailing.
What about the Green Patches asked Toby about the rag the nuts off over losing it over the Sting or whatever that wing was called? It went flutter or some shit. I had a good laugh. Does anyone know what he's on about?
Yeah, he's on about, I don't know if Toby will know about it. This is Matthew Ogborn that runs the Rag the Nuts Off channel, who buys a lot of wings. And he got the Stinger. And it's one of these like 100 mile an hour plus. I think it's about like a 1 meter wing or something. And he was saying, like full throttle, if you increase the prop size, the wing gets flutter. And I think he ended up returning it or something. But that's all I know.
Yeah, so I think that product was, I think it was put to market with a prop that was inappropriate. So before the product went on sale, the right size propeller was provided to everyone, and with using the supplied propeller, the product had no dramas. It was still ridiculously fast. But when you increase the prop pitch, I believe it was, the product went faster, and the wing just wasn't designed to handle that speed. So I suppose when guys are changing things and modifying things, and then the product doesn't act as anticipated, and then they go and they rip it to shreds on their channel, it's not really fair. You know, it's not fair to the product, and it's not fair to the company. And you could probably argue that going after a product so publicly, after you've modified it, is more about like a sensationalist attempt to try get views, a little bit like a gossip magazine photoshopping a celebrity's photo.
Clickbait.
Yeah, they're really just doing it for traffic. Yeah,
Shocking. That never happens on YouTube, and they never create interesting titles that might manipulate their audience.
yeah. But you know, if it works for him, you know, good luck to him. I think most viewers are probably smart enough to say, well, he wasn't using the factory supplied prop, and he experienced issues. Too bad, so sad.
Cool. So one of the things, because again, we mentioned when we chatted to you at Hobby King, like about the sort of new competition with the big box shifters like Banggood and Gearbest, and you made the point that what Hobby King does that's different is develop products as well. So is this through? Because I know some of the sort of companies you own or brands you own, like Durafly and Turnigy and Orange RX. Is this sort of all your development things that come in? So all the new planes come in through these companies?
Yeah. So there's two types of development that we do. So we do stuff completely internally. We've got a team of about 20 engineers, and they are predominantly focused on radio and charger stuff and flight controllers. So we kept on iterating the KK2 board for many years until the open source community came up with better alternatives. But then we turned our hand to speed controllers and radio gear and telemetry and that sort of thing. So we do try innovate in that space. The other kind of design that we do is working with factories. So we'll have one of our category managers coming up with concepts and ideas, and normally that stuff's all feedback from the community that they've seen online, and they'll feed that back to a factory and then start going through the process of getting prototypes and that sort of thing, doing their best to try bring it to market. Innovation for us, it's really, really, really important, and we're going to be pouring more and more and more money into it, mainly because of the amount of competition that we're seeing from Chinese vendors, and we feel that because we're a hobby-focused company, particularly when we're working against companies like Banggood and those sort of guys, they don't necessarily innovate. And the good thing for us is if we do bring a product to market that is truly different, they take at least 6 months to copy it, right? Which by then, hopefully, we've sold enough volume out there to have justified the initial designs, and we've moved on to the next iteration. So hopefully they're always one step behind.
Cool.
Where are we, Frank? Do you want to have a go at talking? Because you posted some. Just try. You posted some questions.
Okay, you'll have to let me know whether or not you can actually hear me, or whether it's just bleepy bloopy noises.
All right, cool. Just talk slowly, and I will go.
Okay. So Green Patches in the chat earlier said the EF Extra is awesome, and I just wanted to put that in there as well because that is awesome. It's good fun
I agree.
to watch. Yeah.
It's good fun.
And the graphenes as well. I mean, that kicked everything up, so kind of wanted to add those in there. One of the things kind of wanted to add on from what Curry was saying about the wings, little racing wings earlier. with focus kind of coming off of the drones. Is there any other areas that or sort of trends that you kind of see coming up that you think you might want to focus on, or will you just kind of keep it spread across RC generally?
Yeah, we're I don't see necessarily any major trends that are just exploding, because I mean drones were a bit of an anomaly. They were led initially by the innovations that were coming through in mobile phone technology. So mobile phones had the accelerometers that just kept on getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The community realized those accelerometers could be used to manipulate speed controllers, and before you knew it, you had your first sort of flight controllers, and things sort of progressed from there. And the accelerometers were the same ones used in the multi-Wii boards, and that's sort of how you came along with the multi-Wii speed controllers, flight controllers. So that was a major innovation driven by something outside of the industry, which was the mobile phone industry getting smaller and smaller. We don't see anything bringing such new radical technologies along in a lot of our other categories right now. So, I mean, the drone boom allowed us to focus on drones, and now we've got this great range of drone products. I think we've got something like 15,000 drone products, and we're going to keep adding to that, because that consumer base for drones is still there. The community is still there. But Hobby King's probably, well, not probably, definitely refocusing back to our original strengths and our core strengths. One of the reasons that made us very, very big in the beginning was fixed wing. So, you know, I've seen it myself. My passions lie in fixed wing. When I first joined the company, there was just, you know, choice for days. And it blew my mind that a company could cater to so many different aspects of fixed wing flying. You know, as of a couple of months ago, I was browsing our site for fixed wing stuff, and there's still plenty in there, but we haven't really added to it much in the last 3 to 4 years. And I was talking to our sales and marketing team and our category management team and engineers, and they were saying it's because we'd poured a lot of our resources into drones. So we're going to refocus a lot of those guys back into fixed wing and planes. And I mean, I was looking at our development pipeline yesterday and the day before. We normally only brought to market of our own design planes, maybe 5 or 6 of our own design planes a year. Currently, for the next 12 months, we've got over 50 slated for release. So yeah, we're not going to be chasing any new trend that we think is going to drive growth, but we are going to be refocusing back to our original customer base, which was fixed wing planes. And that's really exciting for me, because being a plane enthusiast, looking at some of the examples of products that they're working on right now, some of that stuff is super, super, super cool.
And are these planes across everything? So like gliders and sort of fast EDFs and sort of FPV things? And...
Yeah. So we've got it's not like a hard and fast rule, but we've segmented planes into I think there's 5 major disciplines. I don't have it in front of me right now, but you've got your sport scale, beginner, jet, or people who want to go fast. So something like the EFX would appeal to someone who's into ducted fans and into sport scale, and a few other sort of segments like scale and that sort of jazz. And occasionally a product comes along that ticks a lot of boxes. So we had a product that can fly slowly, but it can also do some mild aerobatics, and it was scaled, so it falls into a couple of those categories. We try, when we're developing a new product, to not have too much grouped in any one of those quadrants. So we don't want to bring to market 16 gliders, you know, and to the expense of doing no ducted fans, and we don't want to bring to market 16 ducted fans without doing any high wing stuff. But yeah, I think the 50 or 55 models that I saw the other day, there's a really good spread across the spectrum. There's some really fast stuff. There's some unusual stuff. There's some sports scale stuff. And these are not, they're like genuinely new models. Like we've brought out a lot of rehashes recently with new color schemes, but these new models are actually like properly, you know, from scratch, 3D renderings, just totally different.
And do you get to try those out? Do you actually get some
Yeah,
stick time?
absolutely. Absolutely. I try to be respectful of of the designers and that sort of thing, because those guys are the ones who want to test fly it. And yeah, if I'm lucky, or if I have time, I'll go along with them when they're testing a prototype that's at CNC stage, and they'll give me a quick fly. But yeah, we try to give them a lot of autonomy, and the decision's completely up to them. Like I think it would be a pretty dick move if they'd done all this work to get a product ready for market, and I just swoop in and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to take it from here, you know? So, but yeah, they're pretty kind to me. They let me fly stuff from time to time, which is pretty good. And the way our company works, yeah, there's probably 10 airplane enthusiasts around the company, and we're a really flat organization. So it's not uncommon to have a sample shifted from office to office or from person to person to just say, hey, what do you think? You know, like we've got this guy in the UK. He's 70 years old, wonderful pilot, and he's just been sent the first production sample of a plane called the Albatross, which is like a flying boat, a twin-engine flying boat. And that same model has done the rounds in our Hong Kong office, our Sydney office, me in Perth, over in the Netherlands, and now it's with him in the UK. And all of us consolidate our notes, and then our notes are fed back to whoever's designing it. And then that person works with the factory to make sure that whatever comes to market reflects any feedback that we've put into it.
What's the typical sort of drawing board to production model that's available on the store then? Sounds like quite an iterative process that takes a while then.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if everything goes absolutely perfectly, it takes us around 6 months to bring a product out from the first concept meeting to the first sale. But nothing ever seems to go perfectly. So for us, I think the longest I've seen a product take to get to market is about 2 years. Our average would have to be around 12 months. And that's, you know, the 6 month thing is really if the person designing it had nothing else on their on their to-do list. You know, if they were only working that one model and everything just went swimmingly and there were no major things that needed to be changed. So I don't know if you guys actually know the workflow of doing a model, but what would happen is someone in the office would say, hey, I've got this great idea. We'd put it to a chat with a few of the other airplane guys to see whether or not they thought it had legs. If no one else thought it had legs, I mean, there's a right of appeal. So they would go to someone and say, look, I'm convinced that this is going to be the best, and it might get pushed through anyway. Otherwise, we might push it through as a group. That would go to one of the aeronautical engineers who would do a 3D design, and that would normally work its way through SolidWorks to make sure that the design made sense. That would get put into a huge CNC machine, which would do a CNC out of a solid block of foam, which is a super expensive thing to do for a model, actually. And then someone would go through and custom install all of the servos into the CNC. We do a test flight of that product, bearing in mind that CNCs are always a little bit heavier than your final production or final mold of the plane, and they never seem to be as strong. If we like the CNC and if we didn't want to make any changes, then we might do a first mold, and a mold it's almost like a 1 meter cubed block of steel that has been CNC'd from the inside, right, in two halves, and that is what we use to inject mold our foam. Now those molds, they're incredibly expensive. They can be up to 30, 40, 50,000 US dollars just to have the mold made. So when you go to mold, you got to be damn sure that you're pretty close to that product being perfect. And we've normally got about 3 or 4 changes that we make on a mold after we've commissioned it, and then like you said, it turns into that iterative process of producing 5 or 6 prototypes, and each prototype will go through different changes, like different flaps, different servos, different motor combinations until we're happy with it, and that can take a couple of months in itself.
Can I propose a flying potato? Can I entertain you? It's something me and Frank worked on. And yeah, I think you might be very interested. It's like, especially seeing as you guys try to sell those snap together things. It's kind of like that, but you just jam it in a potato and then you fly the
Be
potato.
very popular in Ireland.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Speaking of which, though, Andrew, I think, is trying to relate to you. I think he's drinking Foster's. Are you drinking Foster's, Andrew?
I am drinking Foster's.
Oh, look at that! Trying to make you feel at home.
There you go, and I'm rocking a cup of tea. So back at you.
Hey.
Oh, you two bonding together. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, we haven't got the noise. The Frank's drinking cans of Thunderbird cider. The show pushes it to them. What's that? What is it? VB, the green beer stuff that you Aussies like.
Yeah. VB just caused a huge stir in Australia. You've got all these like craft beer snobs, and they had a recent I don't know, craft beer competition, and VB secretly went and entered one of their beers into, or not one of their beers, their main beer, VB, into this craft beer competition and won the competition because it was done through blind testing. So yeah, they're causing a bit of a stir down here because, of course, all the craft beer nerds were up in arms that a commercial beer manufacturer had won their craft beer competition just with a bog standard lager.
Oh dear! Only in Australia. Are you a Mighty Car Mods fan?
Yeah, those guys are amazing. That what is it? The the Fury Road guy. Fuck, I've forgotten the name. It's like a famous Australian movie.
Fury Road.
Road. Oh shit.
Curry Kitten.
Famous Australian movies. Mad Max. Australia.
Mad Max. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for that. The 200 SX that they did up in a Mad Max scheme with that crazy V8 hanging out the front. I mean, that thing was amazing, and I actually got to see that thing live, and it was just ridiculously loud. Made my ears bleed. It was fantastic.
It looks mental. That thing, like, all it does is like kick up dirt, and they busted the rear window, didn't they? And whilst making it, it was horrendous.
Yeah, we actually provided them with some batteries a couple of years back when they were doing an EV vehicle. They did like an EV conversion for something, so that was really fun. Those guys are awesome, and they're really, really down to earth, which was awesome for us. But
you worked with Peter as well, didn't you? On his Hobby King did, right, with his flying foam plane. Perhaps not aware of Peter.
Peter Stripple.
Yeah. I'm sure. I thought he said Hobby King supplied some parts.
Yeah. Look, Pete's a crazy guy. He's such a crazy, awesome inventor. I got to meet Pete in one of the air shows in the States when he'd just done this plane. He was like one of the first people who could do something that could genuinely transition from vertical flight to like horizontal flight. And he didn't even do it with a flight controller or anything. It was quite a simple design. But yeah, he was that was before he joined Flight Test. He's a really, really cool guy, and some of the ideas that he comes up with and the planes he does are just awesome. I really enjoy watching his vids.
Were you worried as well that he was going to live stream his own death? I really like his channel and the guy, but I was so worried about him going up in that plane. It's like it's
half the reason people watch, isn't it?
That's it.
I literally believe that his parents bought that puppy to try and ease the loss of their son. I've had a few emails with him about coming on the show, and then he just got too busy, and I've never been able to like catch up with him since. But yeah, I've emailed him a few times. But
his channel's gone crazy. I mean, he's talking like get more views than Flight Test just on his own, isn't he? It's,
yeah. And Flight Test really exploded when he came on the scene. So I think they really miss him.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, he felt a little bit stilted on Flight Test. Since he's gone to his own channel, he's gone full Peter, I would call it.
Yeah, totally. I'd agree with that for sure.
Tony's just on holiday. Tony will be back. I'd like literally the last thing in chat.
Do you know one thing we haven't asked Toby is how did he get started in RC? We've talked a lot about planes. Was it through RC Planes yourself? That's your passion?
Yeah. Well, my So my mum remarried when I was really young. I think I was 6, and the new guy who later became my stepfather, he was, I guess, trying to relate to me, or trying to get to know me a little bit, and he took me to a local hobby shop, and he said, you know, let's try something. Let's buy one of these products. And as a 6-year-old, you're like, yes, absolutely, let's buy everything. And he said, look, you know, you can choose. You can have a remote control car, or you can have a remote control plane. And this is in the 80s. So I mean, helicopters were just way out of the price range, right? So it was really just planes or cars that I had the choice over. So I bounded over to the car section, and I grabbed a car off the shelf, and I put it on the counter, and I was like, yeah, I'd love this. And the guy at the car at the checkout, he said, well, you know, cars are great, but they can go forward, left and right, and a little bit of backwards. But planes, I mean, think of all the things you can do with a plane, right? Like, and he started talking about aerobatics, and he started doing, you know, talking about all this great stuff that was more dynamic than a car. And he talked me into buying a plane, and that's how we got started. So I started off with a Cox 049 PT19, which is a line-controlled plane that just goes in circles around you.
Yeah.
And we had no joy with that because it had this 049 motor that we could never get to run. And then eventually graduated to a 40 size trainer, and yeah, from there the rest is history. So I've been flying planes since I was about 6. I was very lucky that I had a really awesome airplane club just down the road from me, because we lived on a farm. And yeah, I haven't looked back, and I've kind of gone in and out of the hobby since then, like a lot since then. So in my teens, I kind of gave it away because, you know, as a teenager, I just kind of found more interesting things. Yeah, girls and booze.
You're struggling with that, Andy RC, and your
Struggling
teenage
with
years.
and then I came back to it for a bit, and then you know, then I left it again. Like when I joined Hobby King, I got right into it. But then making your hobby your work, you kind of like lose the passion, I guess. But I've been with Hobby King now for about 7 or 8 years, and I've come back into planes. And actually, I'm probably like right into it right now because my office isn't in the same office as the research and design guys, which means I don't get to see the stuff every day. My new role is more like just looking at numbers on a screen, which is awesome for me because it means I'm like kind of removed from the products on a day-to-day basis, which means that when I play with them on the weekends or at night when I'm working on them, it's like it's a real novelty, right? So actually I've started building balsa models again, just from kits, and installing nitro and petrol motors in them. That's really cool. I haven't done that in such a long time. We've been so focused on foamies for the last 5 years. Getting to play with that other stuff, which is much more intricate, yeah, it's just been a real godsend for me.
Yeah, that's a great story. I have a similar sort of, you know, thing, flying since I was about 8 years old, and yeah, come in and out of it. Never made it CEO. Well, actually, I was going to announce the other day on Facebook that I was going to announce myself as the CEO of Andy RC. So there you go. But that's a pretty cool story. Thanks.
You can be CEO of Let's Drone Out if you want.
I'll think about it, Jack.
Don't want that blemish in your resume.
So, is it the sort of scale balsa things you're into at the moment, or do you like to do FPV? Or is it
are you wearing socks and sandals? That's what he's asking. Show us your feet.
No, I wouldn't say scale. Like I do like scale. But yeah, I'm more sort of into sport models, and at the moment I've got this this weird fetish with like these 80s sports models. So you guys used to have this company called Precedent in the UK, and they did this plane called the Funfly.
I had the Precedent Funfly. That was my first plane.
Yeah,
Precedent.
So that's what I'm building at the moment, just because they're super cool and they're really versatile, and you can just throw them in the car and go.
Are they still
got
going?
Like a kind of like futuristic look to them. What's that?
Are they still going, Precedent?
No, I mean, I got some plans of
you got
RC
the plans.
groups. Yeah,
is the Funfly the one with the flaps? I had that one.
Yeah, no,
President-
not the one I'm building. Mine's just got oversized ailerons, but yeah, it's good. It's really, and that smell of the glue and balsa, and it just brings like so many memories.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you about one of your products that I've always wanted to know? Do you
Sure.
purposely make this smell nice, or and is it wrong to drink it? Like, this smells so nice and fruity. The
You're
kicker,
It smells nice, doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
the accelerator. It is so. Is it bad to breathe
I
in?
don't know why they do that.
Oh, it's so good.
But yeah,
Oh man,
I agree with you. It does smell really good though.
like sitting here and sniffing it. It's weird. It's very weird.
As your pupils dilate from the.
Some of these late night phone calls I get off Jack are starting to make sense now.
Yeah, that's it. Jack, you're on the kicker again. I go to Hobby King. I'm like, I've ordered a load of kicker. I'm like, why aren't any of these cold? Oh
Yeah.
my
Can you
word.
come over to my house and get on the kicker?
Should we let Toby? Yes, definitely. Yeah, I know. Get on the old kicker. Toby, it was amazing to have you on. I would have spoke more, but the guys just love talking to you. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you do move time zones, give us a shout. You got our email, and we'll have you back on. But we love to, we've gone to our hour slot, and we'd love to get you to go asleep and have some rest.
Thanks, guys. Look, thanks for inviting me on, because one thing that was glaringly obvious to me when I first took this role was that Hobby King is too much of a closed shop. So we're not transparent enough with how we deal with the public, and that was really hit home to me when I was chatting to you guys at the UK event. And I won't say who, but one of you guys was really, really enthusiastic about me coming on board, and you spoke about all the pros, and I really got the sense that there's this kind of like there's this willingness that the community wants us to succeed. I think a strong Hobby King is good for the hobby, because we were one of the first companies to really lower prices to the point where it kind of democratized the hobby. It took it out of that like expensive elitist category, where the everyman could get in. And we use the term everyman at work a lot, because that's like our ideal customer, right? It's just the every person. So yeah, thanks for having us on. I'm going to try and get the message out there more. I'd love to come on more. If people do have any specific questions for me, we've got a forum on our own site, and there's a little section there called Talk to Toby. You're more than welcome to pop a question in there, and I'll reply as quickly as I can.
If you, after this, you can post the link in the description and chat if you want on once this video goes up. So that'll be quite a good thing to do. And
Yeah, awesome.
I remember the first interview with Flight Test, how Hobby King's not, we're the king of hobbies. It's we make you the king of your hobby.
Yeah.
So I remember that, and it allowed me and scrubs like Andy RC here, except you banned him. To get into the hobby.
Man, by the way.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
Shall I explain what happened before we go?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like
Oh, look at you! Do you sell shovels on Hobby King? Look at
no,
him.
do you know?
Dig out the hole. Carry on, Andy.
I just had one bad experience, and it was in 2012. So it's going, but so before quads existed. I bought it was a helicopter, like one of the first mini ones with the fly barless and stuff like that, and it never turned up. It just never came. And it must have just gotten lost. And me being me, and it being my very first purchase overseas, actually. I think I raised the PayPal dispute, and they closed my account until I would reopen close the PayPal dispute. Anyways, I did get my money back, but yeah, it was just I bought from Hobby King since, and that was it really.
Look,
I'm not banned or anything.
There's been some appalling policies that have gone through our customer service channel, like particularly 5 or 6 years ago. There were some really appalling ones. So there was this one where mistakes happen. Like, we're shipping tens of thousands of products, tens of thousands of orders every day, so mistakes are going to happen, right? And occasionally someone would get a box and something wasn't inside it. So they'd complain to customer service, and our customer service team would say, "Hey, can you send us a photo of the missing part?"
Yes.
Which is just like it just makes your mind boggle. Anyway, so so that was like a random policy that originated from just this employee who obviously just wasn't thinking about it. And to put in perspective, we've got over 200 people just in customer service. So yeah, it was difficult to find out who came up with this policy and how it managed to find its way into our customer service manual. But once we did, it got weeded out, and it's no longer the case. But that was a really good example of some really shithouse service. And yeah, we're definitely taking steps to not do that again.
That's good, because that's kind of my example. I got all upset. I got a big plane. It was the Buffalo FX-79, great big 2-meter wing, and it had this one capacitive nut that goes in the wing joiner missing. And so I said, "This is missing. Can you get me one?" And they said, "No, send the plane back and we'll send you a replacement." And I was like, "This box is this big, and I just need one."
And the cost of sending it back would just be extraordinary.
Yeah, I was like, "Can you not open a box and send me the nut from that box?" And
yeah,
and I mean, ironically, I sent one email to Zeta Science who make it, and they sent me it, which kind of upset me at the time. But it's good to hear that things are changing and you've weeded out the bad ideas.
I mean, stuff like that, I can almost isolate why it happened. So we used to have this massive customer service team in the Philippines, which, I mean, those guys worked really, really hard, but none of them were modelers. So when someone would ring up and say, "I'm missing a 4x10 hex head screw," they'd go, "Oh, well, I'll have to send them a whole new model, so I'll need the old model back." And that, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So one of the first things that I did when I took over customer service in 2013 was I started a New York customer service team, and they're all modelers. So there's about 20 or 30 guys in that office, and all of these guys have like years and years and years of experience. So when you contact them and you say, "I'm missing a screw," or "I'm missing this nut," they'll just send you the screw, or they'll just send you the nut. They're not going to ask you to return the entire box. But yeah, that was a big deal for us, because some of the customer service claims coming through, some of the experiences I was reading online of people's customer service experiences were just terrible, and frankly embarrassing.
Well, that's great that has been addressed, and yeah, and
it's a work in progress. I wouldn't say we're perfect yet. We've still got a long way to go, I think.
Great. No, that's great. Thanks for answering those questions. So are we ready to wrap up, guys?
Yep, no worries. We will be on Patreon with our bonus pod after this. So if you guys like to go over to the Patreon, the link's in the chat, and we will be chatting for another hour after that to say thank you for all the lovely Patreons that help support and keep this show alive. Tonight we have been joined by Andrew/Frank.
Goodbye.
The not so hated by Hobby King anymore, Andy RC.
Good evening, everyone.
You're still northern though, so there's nothing we can do about that. We've been joined by Toby.
See you guys.
Thank you very much, man. Stay in touch. We're here if you need us. Also, feel free to look up Andy RC's address and send him piles of poo from Hobby King as a sort of, that's what you get. There's your PayPal
shipping container full of bad lipos.
That's it. I would like to apologise on behalf of me and Wayne for stealing your Hobby King vehicle.
Shh, he doesn't know anything about it.
He does. He so does. Gareth from Galaxy Hobby has probably grassed on us. Have you not seen that video?
No.
No, he looks confused. You're just dreaming this now. Don't worry about it.
I've been on the clicker again.
Did you guys steal the Range Rover?
Yeah, sorry.
It's not stealing if you bring it back again afterwards.
Yeah, it's tonking, taking without asking.
Exactly.
Curry Kitten.
Goodbye.
And I've been Jack, Bright Until I Fly. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening. Remember, we are on Patreon. $3 or more, you can watch a bonus show. Good night.
Bye.
See you guys.